Hey guys, welcome back to another Architecture Real Talk. In today's talk, we're going to be talking about how the technology have had a huge impact on what architecture is today. Now, our proponents are pretty much for CAD, computer-aided drafting, and we're looking at building information modeling on one side. For CAD, the go-to software is AutoCAD. This software is known for 2D drafting, 3D drafting nowadays. You have dynamic blocks that are continuously evolving. You are able to pretty much with a small learning curve have the entire firm running and you're ready to go, and you can cross collaborate with XREFs between different disciplines. Now, when it comes to BIM software, Revit is your go-to software for architecture, SolidWorks, and if you look at the studio, you're looking at primarily Rhinoceros. And what you have there is the capability of drawing something that is a mass or a void, a 3D object that gives you information back. Especially when it comes to Revit, it has speed up production dramatically. The comparison is if you're hand drafting in 8 hours, 8 or 9 hours of drafting is about an hour to 45 minutes in AutoCAD, and translate that to Revit, they're talking 8, 10, 12 minutes that will pretty much do as much as what you have done in AutoCAD. Because you have such things as repetitive blocks in there as well, they're known as components, repeating components. You can check out more things on my channel that pretty much go through how Revit tutorials are done. And we go step by step through the whole book. Now, the next thing you have to understand is these are great production software. And I end with that. The reason is they're only good for realizing once the idea has been born to making the building. But it does not help you with the conception of the idea. The limitation of software is it hinders the expression of idea. Now, when I speak about this, I also feel like the deficit or the downside of having these levels of software is, yeah, we can quickly revise drawings and we're able to do quick edits. And that's great for revision work, for going through the city. But if we have, instead of taking the time frame that it used to take in the past to realize a project and focusing that time frame on design, we have pretty much promised our clients beautiful architecture or quick architecture because we are able to do them on a software. And another thing that is striking to me is instead of using the software to explore complex design, to explore complexity in form, to become more in tune with what our nature is, rather than exploring and expanding that portion of our field, we rather shrunk that to about 15 to 30% of our industry when it used to be 50-50. And then we have made 70% of our industry's pure production, grunt work. This is just pretty much realizing you already have the main idea down, sketch works down, and now you're just pretty much putting your head to the drawings and just getting out drawings so it can be built. Now, we shrunk that time down further and further just to realize what the clients want. We have taken on intrinsic deficit. We have people who are in our industry working 70, 80, 90 hours a week just to realize that all they're doing is copying from a previous drawing, or you're borrowing from a previous drawing. Sometimes details, which is not that bad, but sometimes the whole portion of a building or a whole wing altogether, just because it's easier to just bring it in and throw it on a different site. Now, this is not same thing as deconstructivism. Even deconstructivism gave honor to architecture. They were far, far more poetic ideas. They pretty much left the realm of architecture because they weren't about the site. They might be about the client, and that's a whole separate topic. But at least deconstructivism addressed clients, or it addressed an issue or an idea, and it explored complexity. You're looking at now buildings that are just repeated, subdivisions that are repeated. You're looking at 5, 6 house plans that are repeated. Why? Because we're able to copy paste, because we're able to replicate them, and it saves the architect time. We can charge lower on our fees. We can save you smaller on time. And guess what that does? The industry is now full with people who believe that they're beautiful or great architects just because they can dish out a building. And that's not what great design is. Exploring new concept from the fact that you have technological advancement, like take something as simple as Ecotech that gets attached to Revit. It has capabilities to tell you what the room temperature, which room is going to be colder by 2-3 degrees, how you will have to adjust the thermostat before you break ground. And you're telling me you're going to use softwares like that to pretty much plant another building on that site, the same Motel 6 being repeated, same McDonald's being repeated. I understand the whole notion of franchise, but when do you draw the line? You have same apartment complex getting repeated on different site. There's a project that's in Memphis, Tennessee, that's also in Houston, Texas, and it's the same retirement home, right? I don't want to bash architects for this, but at the end of the day, we have stopped revolutionizing work. In 1900s, when we were drawing by hand, when we were doing these prints, or we would call them blueprints, now known as construction documents, we had to draw everything by hand. The ideas were by force unique because an industry of architects understood, I have to draw this by hand anyways. There's no copy and pasting. So people would endeavor in exploring new architectural style. We would come up with the arts and craft movement. We came up with prairie home style that Frank Lloyd Wright coined. We had Mies van der Rohe come up with a very neo-modern style. We used steel glass. We went all the way up into the 70s and the 80s, and then production homes came. Production architecture came. We realized that, hey, we can start throwing things in AutoCAD, and 1990s happened, and there hasn't been revolution since, right? Instead of a continual evolution of exploring more modern ideas or more modern architecture, we realized that since we can copy for the last 20 years, architecture style became stagnant. Now, I'm not saying that they're not outliers. You look at any works from Santiago Calatrava, you look at works from Morphosis, UN Studio, and you look at, there's countless architects. You can even look at Zaha Hadid, and her works pushes the very edge of technology. And I don't really know where technology is headed, but if we're able to production becomes faster and faster and faster, we can visualize architecture far more greater than any other civilization. Great. But where are we going to go to? What ideas are we exploring? What's the next movement? Now, I do not have an answer for this, but at the same time, I want to say, hey, is there innovation? Is there a design process? Are we actually forcing a beautiful building out of this? Or are we simply using the software to take shortcuts in design? And with that said, I'm sorry to leave you on a bad note, but that's how I feel about software. There's something beautiful about taking a pencil and putting it on paper and drawing that line. That unlimited freedom, that direct connection with architecture, that understanding with modeling is fading from our industry. We have gotten to a point where even in architectural school, we no longer teach color theory or we no longer teach hand drafting. There are new architects that are graduating that have no idea how to detail. They have no idea what they're drawing. They're just able to just copy paste so quickly that they have to be taught in the industry what lines they're actually drawing because they have never thought about what line means what. Why? Because it's more important for the employer to find a person that can CAD or that can Revit, that can replicate a very, very quick sketch. 8 lines turn into a school instantly. Now, I don't know if you found that as a problem, but I personally think design should go back to 50-50 with production. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Follow for more content.